Hello, guys. We're back with another update for Optic, and I'd like to share this video, kind of show what's new in the tool and what has majorly changed since last time. So first, I think one big reason for why it took so long for this update was the fact that we did a lot of architectural change to make it easier to do new features, to new tools for the inside the app. And so there was a lot of like reworking to get the same thing again, but with a better architecture. And you might have also seen on my Instagram, if some of you follow me, that I've done a lot of work with the new model. And so we'll look through the UI on how to use the new model and how you can get the best results out of it. Plus, actually, the limitations that it has, because it's still in beta. So there's some stuff that it still doesn't do as good as the previous one. But we want to release this model as quickly as possible so people can test it out and see what kind of feedback we get and how we can improve it further. Let's just jump into the UI. And so before we get to the new model, I just want to show what has changed on the UI a little bit. There's overall a little like aesthetic change. Some nice to have things like there's line mode now. So if you go to the top right corner, you can switch between dark and line mode. You have your settings panel here on the left, still as previously. You have the settings, lenses, and presets tab. Same with the sliders. They're pretty much the same with just a slightly different look. Next, history used to be on the bottom left here, but now it's on here on the assistant tab. You can see all your previous generations. I think we'll in the future use this tab even more for all kinds of stuff, but right now it's the history tab. Then at the bottom, like previously, but now it's kind of integrated into the same zone. You have the prompt bubbles and the generation button, and like previously you also had the refine, but now it's always stuck to the bottom right corner of the image. One thing you also might have noticed that it directly causes the prompt text box, and there's not like to describe what you want to create. That's because we are reworking this area, and soon you'll have much more use with it. Like on the previous updates was quite limited, and so we are reworking that and being able to use natural language is coming back. But for now, you have the prompt text, which you can still achieve exactly the same thing as before, but now it automatically goes to the prompt text box. If you want to edit the prompt and what you're trying to generate, you can just do it at the bottom with these individual influence boxes. I think that's mostly for the UI. If you also, some people might have been confused, where can you manage the subscription you have, cancel it, whatever, get invoices and stuff. You can go to the top right, go to the profile and press manage subscriptions. Or if you want to contact us by anything, you can find that there also. Then I think we can jump right into the more exciting part, which is the 2.0 beta model. At first, how you can activate it is you go to this settings icon on the right left, and you have the model version. Right now it's at 0.60. If you go to 2.0 beta, you'll see actually the UI changes a little bit. And as you may notice, you can do text to image with the new model. And on the previous model, it wasn't strong enough to really create coherent stuff without having some sort of input image. But with the new model, overall, it's much more coherent and much more creative in doing stuff. So we can even tell it to try with just the text image, and you don't have to specify an input image. You can specify the aspect ratio, so what it will generate with. So I have the 16:9 selected, and then I can do futuristic concept car part in Paris or something like this, and we can see what we get out of this. You'll also see the new loading screen, which not much to it other than like you have this like blurry effect, and you can actually now see the generation and each step that it's going, and you can cancel the generation if you don't like it. It's just a nicer thing to have. Like you can generate and you're always up to date, like what does the generator see when it's generating, and you can cancel, like if you don't like where it's going, you can just press the stop button there. We can generate one more time here. You can always system bring input images and even use the text images as input. So once you're, let's say, happy with just the base that you took, like previously, you can then just play with the model influence, bring it down from 1 to, let's say, 0.6, then shape control to 0.5, and we can redo a generation, and we can kind of go a further step with the concept or refine the image that we had. Good. And then we can, like previously also, we can add inspiration images. Let's add something here. I'll add this picture of a bike. I'll use this kind of golden bike as inspiration image. If I go back to high model influence, so I go all the way to 1. So that means the model won't be able to see the original image, but it still has to adhere to the shapes because we have shape control at 0.5. And we just give it a little bit of influence to see if we can get it either cold or kind of in the studio environment. Let's see what it decides. In general, also the new model is much more creative. And its biggest current limitation, I think, is that it's not very good at being literal. And so if you pump up the shape control all the way to 1, especially with sketches, you'll see that it's struggling to do what you want. Like I said, I think this is the weakest point of the model. I think it's good with higher shape control if you have an image as input, because it will go from an image and try to output a realistic image. The problem usually is if you have a sketch as an input and the model struggles taking the sketch and turn it into realistic. And so that applies to both having a sketch with high shape control or having a sketch, even if you have a low shape control, to have model influence where it can see a lot of the original image, because then it tends to want to keep it a sketch, and usually that's not what you want. I can show example of that. So say I have this side view sketch, and I will have relatively low shape control, and I will have model influence at 0.7. So it still sees the original image. And if you generate, it might struggle to escape the medium. And I want to show these examples so you get a sense of like, what is it good at right now and where are we trying to improve it. So yeah, here, for example, it does this pretty good, but you can also see that it starts to get like this coloring issue, and the weeds are very almost vectorized because it's kind of stuck in this medium. You can see the difference if I then put model influence all the way to 1 and then run with similar shape control. Now the model just has more freedom to escape the medium of the original image, which is sketch, and it will be able to produce something, I think, more coherent. What you can also try to help with escaping the medium is just adding inspiration. So it has some external influence to say, do it in a particular style. Again, it doesn't always work, but it's something you can try. I'll just take this car in somewhere outside, this blue sports car, and I'll put even 0.5 and see how that works. So as you can see, like, it has some external influence to be able to escape the medium. There's some funny details there that you could then try to escape out of. So I'll remove the inspiration influence, and I'll then do like a refinement generation. So let's do like 0.5. We can keep shape control at the same value. Mm. And now like we managed to escape the funny little blue wheel on the previous generation just by doing a refinement generation on top of the initial generation. And this way you can escape the medium of the original image. And like I said before, this is something we're actively improving because we want it to be at the same level as the previous models. And that's why the model is in beta right now. But just some tips that I want to share how to get like, or at least how I found to get better results when I'm playing around and doing designs on them myself. Here I can just quickly also show the refined. And it's slightly different from before, where before on the previous models, it's a two-staged where it first generates the big high resolution and then it does like an AI sharpening. But actually with the new model, we can just generate the whole image to be much larger and it will preserve the details without having these like undefined sharp edges sometimes or making the wrong edge sharp that we noticed on the previous models. With this, it's literally just like trying to make it more realistic, trying to add detail, but not touching the intention of any of the corners and so on. You might also see here that it's doing it in 4 patches. So it's essentially just like taking each corner, create a more higher definition image, and then we'll put all of those together to a massive one massive image. You might have noticed that the prompt is not in those boxes like it is in the previous models. And that is because the new model is just better at natural language compared to the previous models. And so it doesn't really need a list. And it can handle just writing like this car parked in Paris with people in the background and stuff like this. Whereas the model might struggle with wrong sentences and so it made sense just to simplify the prompt input. And then you can just write in natural language what the image has. And we still have obviously the capability that the model automatically detects what's in the image and will create the prompt for you. And that's why so far I haven't touched the prompt because it always has been valid enough that I can just use it. Now if I download this upscale image, you can see that like it has a lot of detail and it renders about at 4K. You can even see like smaller like sensors rendered in the image. With the new model also, we can do interior. Again, interior is not the strongest yet, but stronger than before. And you can do, again, interior, whether it's text to image or image to image. But the same limitations apply to interior for image to image than exterior. Just to show you, I can do here a futuristic car interior concept sketch realistic. And I don't want realistic necessarily in this case. I just want like a conceptual image. And so I'll say sketch and run it like this. There we go. Same thing here. If you want to try to make it more realistic, you can try to use the inspiration image to guide it further away from the medium. And I think this is a general point for the model is that it will always kind of stick to what has been given as input so far. And so if you had a sketch input, you have to kind of push it away from the sketch input with either prompt or inspiration is even better. And you mostly just see this with the sketches, and that's why I said limitation right now are sketch input, but there is still methods to get away from it. You can also try to actually do just do a generation with the old model to get like the basic shading and like more realistic shading out of the sketch, and then switching to the 2.0 to get more coherent details, more like just more refined generation output. And yeah, I'll also be curious to see what you guys can generate with the new model, and what kind of new methods you can find to kind of push the model to go where you want it. How do I use the model right now? It's like, yeah, kind of ideating and letting the model be more creative. The previous models are more restrictive and they follow more what you want, but the new model is kind of more free in that way, and it can do a lot more when it has freedom to do so. And so I just put the image this was also generated with the new model, and like I can create even more kind of ideas out of this by even putting it 1.0 model influence, and just having like half shape controls has some freedom to do new stuff with it. And if I generate like this, as you can see, like I can try out new ideas, have the theme kind of similar, but play around with the execution. I can even be more free, add inspiration. Like let's say I'll add this night image, or I add this studio image here, also generated with Optic. I'll use that as an inspiration, so it will be hopefully in this studio environment now. And I'll just remove the yellow. I'll put vibrant blue in the prompt, since the inspiration image is also blue, and then generate again. And now you can see it's like in the studio environment, because we added that additional inspiration image as influence. The inspiration, I think, is more flexible now also. Like it's good with adding like digital features into the image. So if you have, let's say, a side view, I'll pull up this image here, and then I have this golden bike as an inspiration image. We can try to get even not just the color, but even some of the like these like bike details that the inspiration image has, and try to get that into the model. And again, we want the model to be a bit free, so we can push those details in there. And so I'll just start with that and see what I need to change. The one generation, I think we can push those details out. I go back, pump the model influence. We can reduce the shape control, because we don't really necessarily want the specific shapes of the original image. And here, like maybe we went too far. Now it's like, it's pretty cool as a like 4-wheel bike or something. Maybe we can find the middle point to find the sweet spots. So 0.4 and 0.4 like that. That's also like the examples you've seen on my Instagram lately are kind of done like that. I'm just kind of exploring it with the new model, finding cool features that I just didn't see before, and then like working with that. You can see how it's like influenced by the inspiration and influenced by just by the overall composition of the image. And you can, be much more creative with the new model. And it's an experiment playing around with finding like cool little ideas when you let the model have a bit more freedom. And the control is what we are developing right now to make it even more robust. So you can throw in a sketch and it will be able to handle it without having to push it that much. You can also use generative brush like previously, so it also works with the new model. Like if you want to redo the wheel, and you can just do that. If you have to redo a lot of the original image, so if I would generate like half of the image, you have to play around a little bit with the settings to find the balance where the model can actually complete the request. Because sometimes if like most of the image is gone, it doesn't really know how to fill in the blank. Next up is lenses. And so the 0.6 model lenses are separate from the 2.0 because it's a completely new base model. That also means you can actually train the new base model for the new stuff you want and take advantage of the much better coherency and quality of the new model. And so just an example, on my Instagram, I did this like Nilo renderings. And these are all done with the new model where I just trained a data set of the Nilo car. And once I had the lens, I could use that lens to basically generate the car anywhere I wanted because the model now knows what it is. This wasn't previously possible because the base model just wasn't strong enough to, let's say, completely coherently create images of existing car, for example. But with the new model, again, you can train objects, you can train styles, form languages, anything you can imagine that has a unified theory behind it. And with the new model, there will be way stronger, all of those lenses, and way more capable in what you want to do. This being one example. They would like, if you want to do F1 car, stuff like this, you can just train a lens and you can create coherent concepts. And you can even blend it with the original base model where you, let's say, use it at the 0.5 weight. You might remember here, you can have the slider and you can change the value of it. And so you can put it to 0.5 and kind of have the blend of the base model and your lens to create something unique. You can also put, again, just like previously, you can put lens slots together. And so you can combine multiple lenses to have, let's say, object lens, a style lens, put those together and generate with those. And just giving you so much more freedom in what you're trying to generate. Training is still the same. So if you open the trainer, you will drag and drop the images here, put the name. There's still the general bias training method. And if you're training an object, let's say a specific car, you might want to use biased because essentially whenever, let's say, you prompt a car, that's the car it wants to generate, versus a general, let's say you trained an SUV, but now you're training those supercars, but you want those SUV features to come out in the supercars. The context is more limiting, but if you use bias, it's really trying to enforce those shapes, whatever you're generating with. And so biased for objects, for example, works really well. And I have the demo car as a lens, and I'll show you what that looked like. So it's this car, and this image is actually generated with Optic, just text to image. So I had a text prompt, car parked in some city, I don't remember. But you can see, even if the data set wasn't perfect, it can actually add a lot of detail by the help of the base model. My data set was just like Blender screenshots of the model, and obviously there was never this environment or anything. And so you can just train the base model to understand what your car looks like, and then you can generate with that. The other benefit is, since you have the lens, you can let it be a bit free in what it's trying to generate. And so just for fun, I just tried like, okay, can I force it to be an SUV? And it generates kind of a SUV version of the lens or the car. Or can I try to make it an old school like Dagen or whatever you would call this? And you can see that those features start to come out in this weird form. You can even do it on a bike. So I tried to prompt the car on a bike, and somehow it seems to work pretty well. It turned into this funky 3-wheeler, but you can kind of see the aesthetic of the of the original car. I can show you on the generation itself how it works. So I'll just upload. I mean, let's just try with the text image first. So I say a purple car parked in a parking garage, and then press generate. And as you can see, I mean, even the parking garage is very purple, but that's the car we trained. You can also use it in text to image, image to image, sorry. So I'll pull up this previous generation of Optic, and we can try to get those features out of this car with our newly trained lens. And here we go. Yeah, we have the lens. We can try to get the proportion of this car, but with the features of the lens. So we might even reduce the lens a bit. Go to like 0.55 and 0.7 the modeling for instance. Let's try that. Here you go. And like now you can see it's trying to add the features of the original car into this form and some of the shapes that it sees from the original image. Again, giving you like other options to play around with, whether you want a literal representation of the car or you want to fuse it into an existing design you might have. And yeah, you can just play around with the values to find what you want to generate. And so here's kind of an overview of the new tool with the new model. All of the examples that I've shown on my Instagram are done with the new model. Some of them are like text to image, some of them are image to image, some of them are training a lens. But that was the whole point with the new model. It's also just giving so much more possibilities to do it your own way and just like finding your creative tool set with lenses, with inspiration, and being able to produce and generate with the model, either literally or creatively, letting them even the model to do some ideation. Our plan next is obviously to make the beta model stronger. There will be some interesting features coming out for the new model, and so look out for that. Ciao.